Welcome back. So the COVID-19 pandemic hit the banking sector hard. From the reduction in fees due to the economic relief measures to waivers and renegotiations of loans, the sector recorded some of their biggest losses in recent history. Yet, many had to step up and be part of the fight even as they fought for their survival. James Mwangi, CEO and MD of Equity Group, joined this fight by donating both as an individual and from his organization and partners close to 2 billion shillings to the COVID fund. He spoke to Yvonne Okwara Matole about the tough year while giving advice to SMEs as well as reflecting on what the year ahead holds.
What an extraordinary year 2020 has been, and the pandemic has affected every sector of the economy, from banking all the way to SMEs. And one man who's been at the helm of driving the COVID-19 fight in the country is the Group Managing Director and CEO of Equity Bank. That's Dr. James Mwangi. He has given of his personal finances, given from the bank, and been at the helm of that. What are his reflections on this year and his outlook for the year 2021? He's invited us to his home to discuss this and much more, and we're so glad to be here. Daktari, thank you very much. Thank you.
It's good to have
really
you.
Good to be here.
Thank you very much.
Asante. Thank you. How have you been?
Very well.
Yeah. What a year.
Yeah, really challenging year. As a generation, we haven't seen this before.
Yeah.
Welcome.
All right, thank you.
Please have a seat with me.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank
you're
you.
most welcome.
Asante.
It's really challenging working from home, but here we are.
Let's then talk about the year that has been, how extraordinary it has, and all businesses, all economies around the world, you know, have borne the brunt. What would you say it's been like for Equity Bank?
For us at Equity Bank, 3 challenges stands out. The first one is that of protecting our customers and our staff. How do you protect them? We provide an essential service, yet banking had been built on interactions and mobility. Staff goes to the office, customers come to the office, we serve them in a banking hall. But when you look at the protocols of social distancing, working from home, sanitizing, hand washing, and you are handling cash, that has been a huge challenge. And we have had to deal with it by really fast-tracking digitization to enable customers to bank from home, to bank from wherever they are, and for the staff to substantially work from home. The second, of course, is the COVID management protocols in terms of government policies, like shutdown of some sectors. Essentially, that means shutting down the enterprises that supports livelihood. And essentially, those are the enterprises that we bank. So since March, looking, for instance, the schools have now been closed for 9 months, and essentially they need to be supported. So for those 9 months they are closed, up to when we anticipate they will open, we needed to accommodate them to ensure the installments that they were supposed to pay, both of principal and interest, they are given moratoriums because there is nowhere they are getting cash flows. We also wanted to support them to maintain their staff and to maintain the schools in good shape and order. So again, we have been disbursing little money to maintain and to ensure quick recovery when the COVID environment changes. And that accommodation of staff of customers have been a real phenomenon. And lastly, it was the question of what is it that we can do beyond banking to protect our customers and community. And that is where we came up with the support for the health system and said, we'll do medical literacy to all our customers. We gave them leaflets of what COVID is and what COVID is not, how to manage the COVID environment and how to carry themselves. But that was not really enough. The second step was then to screen them as they enter to the banking also. If there are early warnings, you can give them medications. And then we felt we needed to put a second line of defense. And we devoted $17 million to support all the initiatives that manage COVID. Initially, it was to support all the medical doctors, support our staff. But we later realized Wings to Fly kids and scholars, 17,000 of them were at home, and the digital divide had condemned them to be out of school. So we had to buy them radios, buy them phones, a charger, a leading alarm, and of course a charger, so that a solar panel, so that they could be able to be in an environment that they continue with the study. That is how the year has been. So we're not doing banking. We are now more of healthing, managing a health environment.
Yeah, because it's been, a health and an economic crisis, but it's an economic crisis perhaps caused by and started off by a health one. And so with all of these investments that you're doing, all of these considerations and concessions, including the ones that were made by the government, moving people from cash transfers to cashless transactions, and even in, some of the recommendations that were made in the banking sector, for example. And we're seeing organizations like yours, and indeed, I think every other, recording losses. What was that like? Particularly, it was a 17% drop in profits in the first 9 months of this year. And then you also have, like you said, the sanctions for the moratoria for loans. Where do you see that? Was this the first time you're experiencing such a loss? And how are you then mitigating that, as an organization? What do you think is going to be your plan going forward?
For the 30 years that I've been in Equity Bank, previously Equity Building Society, we had never recorded negative growth in profitability. So this is an extraordinary year out of 30 years. But we are glad that it is not a loss as per se. It is more of spending to accommodate our customers. As you rightly said, we waived all mobile charges. 87% of all transactions in Equity are on mobile platform. And as a result, we have registered a decline of 18% of our transaction and commission fee, which is the bulk of the income. But that quantified is about 150 million shillings waiver every month, so that that will become disposable income to our customers. They can spend that to support their livelihood, but more importantly, to encourage them to migrate to these free channels, so that by migrating, we are protecting them the health. So that is more of a price we are paying to be able to protect our customers.
What is the lesson for COVID for A, the banking sector, and for B, SMEs?
I think the biggest lessons is the need for resilience. I think, as you rightly said, most businesses have been operating on a very short-term view. I think people have learned that we need the capability to sustain and to be resilient when shocks come around. We have had a very poor saving culture. We have had a very poor deployment of capital. We have relied on debt to build the businesses. And those are the businesses that have been affected most. The businesses that had strong capital base are very resilient. They can be able to sustain the shock for a much longer period. But those which were built on debt, it was like they were built on SAD. And so when the floods came, they carried them. And COVID has been more of a flood to small businesses.
And as part of the fight against COVID-19, you and other captains of industry, came together under the COVID-19 fund. You gave of your personal resources. The bank gave some resources as well. Why did you choose to focus on personal protective equipment? Why was that your area of focus?
The initiative of our participation initially came from the Equity Leadership Scholars who were interning in Kenyatta National Hospital. And they reached out and said, normally called, why don't you put a program that could provide us with PPEs? And it was a personal appeal. And they held a fundraising of a weekend. But we realized we were providing PPEs to the interns without PPEs to their doctors and the nurses with whom they work with. And when we discussed it the family level, we felt we needed to do a bigger initiative that would cover all the frontline medical staff, other than just the scholars that we related to. And that was the genesis. And the family suggested we could make a contribution of 300 million as a seed capital. The bank was very gracious. It said it will match that grant. That came to 600 million. Then MasterCard came on board and said, yes, we'll boost that with 500 million. We were already at 1.1 billion. Then we raised the case of our Wings to Fly kids, 17,000. MasterCard topped up with another 300 million. We ended up with 1.4 billion shillings. Then we appealed to Rwanda and DRC and Uganda, and they topped each with 300 million. So we got armed with 1.7 billion Kenya shillings. We collected a lot of data from the hospitals, and then we realized the only way we could deal with COVID was twofold. First one was to sensitize the Kenyan public on the need to become the first line of defense, to ensure that they don't contact COVID. Then we said, let's then use the 1.7 billion shillings to create a second line of defense, such that if you then get infected, there will be a doctor who will be able to see you. We believed capital expenditure for hospitals, the government had provided for that. It was busy building capability of 300 beds in every, but we said, but the doctors needs to be protected. There is a bed for a patient. What about the doctor? And we said we'll provide PPEs. But we knew with 1.7 billion shillings, we could be able to influence how PPEs were to be supplied. So the first thing we said was, why don't we get samples of PPEs and then ask our manufacturing industries in Kenya whether they could repurpose their factories and provide the same PPEs. When we gave the samples, they struggled a lot. Then we hired McKinsey, and together with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance and the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, we trained the 106 manufacturers. In a month's time, the quality had almost matched the one for the imported PPEs. By the end of the second month, our quality was better than the imported PPE.
Absolutely. I think we can move outside.
Yeah, we have talked for an hour.
Everybody has a COVID story. Everybody has experienced this in one way or another. There's the mental stress of not knowing what it's like. What has this year been like for you personally, your family? What conversations are you having? What changes in your lifestyle?
I've never been worried about my family the way every day I wake worrying, will they be safe? And particularly when you have kids that are not too young that you can instruct what to do and what to do, you worry about them every time they walk out of the house. It has changed the way we have carried ourselves as a family. We always used to have a Sunday lunch out in a good restaurant. Since March, we have never been to a restaurant. That's how impactful it has been. I think it has confined us into a very not very social lifestyle, to a very limited social lifestyle. But I think it's the Raja family that has kept me lead a wallet. About our 7,000 big equity family, worrying about them working, coming to work every morning and what will happen. We've been very lucky, we have invested massively, but we haven't been free like in the rest of society. We have had some of our staff infected. And every time you are worrying about that employee, about their family, what support. But it has been very painful knowing friends who have been hospitalized and you are not able to attend.
Have you known some friends?
Many. And I'm not able to walk to their hospital bed to console them. You really leave them to the doctors and you just keep on praying.
Have you lost some friends?
I've lost family members, not just friends. I've lost several friends, but I've also lost very close friends. And it has been really challenging not to be able sometimes to be there for them, unable to attend the funerals because of the environment. And I think this has been the most stressful year in my life, stressed by the happenings. You feel helpless.
Are you tired of it all? I mean, you know, we're Kenyans and we're thinking, how much more of this can be?
Tired and exhausted, Yvonne. Yeah, that would be the word. But the worst one is the sleepless nights that I have to endure every day, every night, worrying what the following day will bring. When will this vaccine be produced? When will it be available? When will the doctors be able to create a pharmaceutical solution to this disease so that we can carry on with our lives?
What would you be doing over the next 30 years? Where would you be taking the leadership?
I think broadly, I think I will do more in the foundation. That's where I think I will serve best. Having, I can now give over the commercial leadership and give back to society what society gave us. And I have 6 thematic areas. I am excited about Wings to Fly, scholarship and leadership development. I'm excited about transforming peasant farmers into agribusinesses. That to me speaks a lot. But now the obsession is micro enterprise. I've realized if we have to change Africa, we have to support entrepreneurs. We must lead and accelerate entrepreneurship in Africa so that it creates opportunities for community, not just for employment, but a market for raw materials and the produce.
Your wife, what does she call you? Does she call you Dr. James Mwangi? Does she call you James? Does she call you Jimmy? What does she call you?
She calls me James.
And what do you call her?
I simply call her Jane. So it's JJ, James and Jane, and it is fun. And given that the kids are out of the nest, as we are gone back to where it all started, just the two of us sitting together in the kitchen, watching her cook, helping where I can help.
How do you help? Ni story too.
Preparation.
Which is your favorite meal to help prepare?
I can't say I have competencies that I can be proud to talk about, but I can remove the plates from the table.
Some would say you're in a very good position to offer leadership in this country. Is that something you would ever consider? Elected leadership, to be specific.
I feel very privileged to have been given the leadership position in serving Kenyans in Vision 2030. Leadership at Meru University of Science and Technology as a Chancellor, but more importantly at Equity Group Foundation and Equity Bank. And with that, I have developed skills and competencies. I feel my leadership now is to support any government in place to succeed, because by a government succeeding, it creates a bigger environment for us. As an entrepreneur, I think I can support Kenyans and government better in practice.
President James Mwangi, is that a title that rings anywhere in your mind? Or Governor James Mwangi, for that matter?
I think the experience of President Trump has not been a very good thing to talk about. So I think it will be good for people to keep to their lanes. And my lane seems to be entrepreneurship, business, and philanthropy. I think that is where I can do well. But I said I retain the responsibility of supporting any elected president by Kenyans to succeed. And that I have done for the last 2 presidents very, very ably. And I will continue into the future. But I think it's good to lead, offer yourself where you are best at. In business, I'm like a fish in water. In politics, I don't know how it will ever look like.